Good morning, Angela. Good morning, Tony. We're at the Harlem Park Theater building in West Baltimore. This building has a long history to it. The last 40 years it served as home to the Harlem Park Community Baptist Church, and for about 4 decades prior to that it was the Harlem Theater, which was designed by Theodore Wells Peach, a local Baltimore architect. So now Angela and Tony are working to bring the theater building back to life and bring it back to its original use as the theater. So I wanted to hear about your vision behind that and what type of programming the new building will offer the community.
Okay. John, you want to start? You start.
Well, I'll start by saying that we've definitely had to conquer and divide. You see me and my mother here, but there's a whole coalition of us that have taken on separate parts of this to make this even possible. The fact that we're able to do this full time is due to our team. So, my mother is very passionate about, community and ownership and equity. There was a need for food in this community, and I was one of those people in need, so I became passionate about food equity. And so together, we decided to put our heads together and encompass it all to one good piece. And the theater specifically will have programming that relates to equity of all types. And I'll let my mother explain a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe just to expand and talk about the history and how, like I said, we've collectively been residents of Harlem Park for over 14 years. And obviously when we first moved here, it didn't look like this. But due to disinvestment, redlining, discrimination, systemic racism, all of those things, it's ended up in this condition. But instead of talking about the negative things and what's been going on, we want to focus on the positive. And part of the positive about Harlem Park in general is that it has this beautiful architecture. As you look around, I mean, in any other place, you plop these houses in DC, Philly, New York, and you're talking about $1 million buildings. And so we've always seen the beauty beneath the rubble in our community. And what stood out is this gym, which was our Harlem Park Community Baptist Church. Actually, we're members of the church. But it has always stood at kind of the top as an anchor for this community. And unfortunately, as with many churches in this community, the loss of human capital in the community. There are not a lot of people. It is about 14 churches and 2 blocks. Mm-hmm. And they're all suffering from the same thing, a decline in people coming and giving money. So first the church fell into disrepair. And after the Freddie Gray uprising, the bulldozers showed up, developers showed up. And so just as a congregation first in a church, we decided we needed to do something different. Unfortunately, our congregation was mainly made up of senior people who just really couldn't take on this type of project. And so, like I said, they came to us and said, hey, do you guys have an idea, or would you help? Would you actually be interested in purchasing it? And like I said, there's probably about 14 churches in a few blocks, so there wasn't a need for another church. And we felt like this building could serve as an anchor for all types of things. And obviously, because it was originally the Harlem Theater, and at a time when this community was thriving, we thought that we should go back to that era and at least respect and represent that. So we call it the Harlem Theater, but we'll house a cultural arts center, like Tony said, different educational programs, a resource center for the community. Literally everything that we currently don't have, you will be able to obtain. If not literally obtaining those things, there will be a connection, a resource center. So there will be people there that will help the community, like you said, find food, clothing, shelter, whatever is needed. But there's also an opportunity. What's important for us, in order to have a sustainable community, you have to have ownership, actual equity. And so that's a part too. It goes into actually setting up a trust where people actually have equity in the theater, but also the project as a whole, because it's not just a theater. We've saved to date 20 buildings that would have been demolished after the Freddie Gray uprising. That includes this one. 6 of them are historic buildings, because that's all a part of what makes this place a beautiful place, is the history. So I guess
Absolutely.
that's, probably all I have to add about that. That it really came out of a place of, when people ask us, like, why would you ever take on a project like this? It's like, we didn't have a choice. Our house was also being threatened with demolition. I guess we should say that, right? Like,
Yeah.
We didn't really have a choice. It started with our house, and then we realized that it was other people in the community and their homes, and then our historic theater.
The whole neighborhood was at risk.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, like you said, it's been a passion project, but also a necessity, and then, hopefully something that we can invite people from other backgrounds to come in and see the community as we see it. But also while ensuring that we don't displace the current residents that have been here. Some people have lived in this community for 75 or 80 years. So we want to make sure that those folks are taken care of and the voices are heard. And so we are the voices, which is a little different, right? Like, we see this as a paradigm shift. Normally, urban renewal and redevelopment is, gentrification and displacement. But we're like, that's not going to happen here. we're gonna do it the right way. And we're going to make sure that, yes, we bring in resources and we invite other people in, but we're going to make sure that we also are going to be at the benefit from our own work. So that's it.